It's time to make a start. We have the quorum now, and now call the meeting to order. In the legislative year 2025, as of last meeting, we have scrutinized 5 projects with a total allocation of $50.564.2 billion. There are 2 items for discussion today on the agenda. Both of them are carried forward from the previous meeting on the 19th of February. These 2 items involve an allocation of $2.471 billion. Subject to all the proposals being passed, the cumulative number of projects being endorsed would have been 7 items, with an allocation of $53.036 billion, discounting land acquisition and computerization of $27.34 billion. The total allocation of capital works would be $25.695.4 billion. Just a reminder that should members have any interests, pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, please make the disclosure before making any speech under 83A of the Rules of Procedure. And Article 84 of the Rules of Procedure provides for voting arrangement in connection with items with pecuniary interests. We move on to item 2, 225NB reprovisioning of Victoria Public Mortuary, P2SC Paper 22. This paper seeks to upgrade 25NB to Category A at an estimated cost of $1.209.1 billion in money of the day prices. On the 13th of May 2022, the administration consulted the Health Services Panel, and members generally were in support of this paper being submitted to this committee for consideration. The highlights of the discussion were circulated to members by email on the 18th of February 2025. You have received the list of attendees. I don't propose to introduce them one by one, except to say that we welcome them all to this meeting. We have Mr. Chen Pui-leung, Mr. Chen Ho-fong, Mr. Lim Chen Sing, Mr. Chen Su-hong, Dr. Kissen Yang, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, and Mr. Andrew Lam on the list. Mr. Chen Pui-leung, 4 minutes, please. Chairman, thank you. I speak in support of this project. Now, this mortuary has been around for half a century, and the storage capacity is nowhere near enough for the current situation. In this project, the construction costs, by comparison with similar projects, the per square meter cost is going up from $33,000 to $48,000, and this is as much as 50% increase in terms of square footage. So is there any room for some downward adjustment? And what contributes to this drastic increase? Second, in terms of storage capacity, I can't see anywhere any mention in the paper the construction cost for the storage capacity. Now, for this $1.2 billion project, how much would be cost for the body storage capacity? Now you have the deep freezer. The deep freezer, does it have to be kept on all the time, or will it be activated when it is used? So this backup deep freezer, how much is it going to be costing us? My last question. In 2046, there is a demand for storage capacity of 1,600 bodies. So the way we treat the bodies will be different from the way we treat bodies now. And we're going for cremation more, and will that shorten the time taken for the bodies to be stored in the mortuaries? And with a shortening of the time for storage, would that reduce the cost as a result? Yes, please. I'm going to defer to the ASD, Mr. Young, about the costs and the ratio of the costs. And let me say a little bit about the way in which the bodies are handled. Now, these public mortuaries are not dealing with all the deaths in Hong Kong. We're dealing with deaths for which the causes have yet to be ascertained. We're also dealing with deaths that are unnatural causes, maybe as a result of accidents or in cases where bodies are found. So these are the cases in which the bodies will be stored in the public mortuary. And we have to ascertain the causes of death, and there are legal procedures to be gone through, like the police will have to conduct investigation, and there is also the autopsy and so on. And once the family members have claimed the bodies, then they will have to decide the way in which the bodies will be disposed of, like cremation and so on. I defer to Mr. Young. Mr. Young? Chairman, about the costing, we can make comparison with the Fushan Mortuary. They are different in nature in terms of projects. Other than the main building, we're also taking advantage of the cavern as a backup storage capacity. And we do have different costing and different considerations. The costs are higher for this project because there are site constraints that present more difficulties and challenges than the Fushan Mortuary. And there is also a difference of 10 meters and so on, and the work will become more complicated. And that's point number one. Second, more importantly, we are taking advantage of the cavern for storage purposes. We have to ensure that it's safe. We have to comply with the fire safety. And there are only 2 exits, and we have to meet all the safety requirements. There has to be a pressurized system and ventilation system. And this will add to the costs of the project. And for the body storage capacity, the capacity is 1,100, are higher than in Fushan Mortuary. Now, for us to achieve this capacity in such a small site, we have to add different elements there. Basically, that explains why the cost is higher. Well, you haven't quite addressed Mr. Chen's question about the backup facilities. What is the day-to-day expenditure for these backup facilities? Well, the cavern is a natural cavern. It used to be used by the MTR for magazine purposes. Now, with mortuary, we have to enhance the safety factor, that there will be improvement work that will be undertaken. Now, a cave-in is different from other environments. There is little in the way of repair and maintenance, and we have cave-in experts to conduct inspection to make sure that everything is in order, and the upkeep would be no different from any other buildings. I might defer to the DIC for further details. Now we have the cave-in there, and you have to carry out some work to ensure safety. How much would it cost us as a proportion? That's a question from Mr. Chen. Yes, Chairman. From the paper, we have the price tag. This is costing us $15 million. We have to ensure structural safety, and I also mentioned that we have to enhance the fire safety, and this will become part of the infrastructure work. Now for this, it is $120 million or thereabout. DH, Chairman, if I may. Now for the backup facilities, we will only activate them when they are needed, and they will be in the form of modular units, and we can assemble them and get them connected with the university. It would take about a couple of hours, and unless this is used for the backup facilities, we would generally use this for the DH to store their equipment. Mr. Chen? Chairman, I am a local councillor there, and I am in support of this. The Victoria Public Mortuary is right by the promenade. It's been there for a long time. It is pretty old, and I know that for some freezers, sometimes we need to put 2 or 3 bodies in one single freezer, and this is undesirable. Now, I'd like to find out about the transport arrangement. Now, with existing VPM, it is right next to the bus terminus. It is pretty convenient for the bereaved families to process the procedures. That this new location is a little bit out of the way. Why we chose this location? It is because it is far away from the residential dwellings. It will not affect people's daily life. But what about the transport facilities? The capacity will be increased from 70 to 300, and as many as 1,000 bodies can be stored there, and you can expect a lot of family members going there. And there is only one single bus route plying the area. People may need to travel there by taxis. And there is no parking space there. People can't really park their vehicles if they drive in. So will this mortuary be well enough provided with transport? I think Mr. Chen Pui-Leung has got a point. Now for the cabin was used as a magazine. It has been lying vacant. And you said the price tag is going to be $50 million. And you have the E&M facilities. Now, if you keep the E&M facilities up and running, the wear and tear would be less serious. If they're lying idle, it might contribute to the wear and tear more. So, are you going to be making the procurement later to minimize the construction costs?
Yeah. Deputy Secretary, thank you. Mr. Chen, transport I'll talk about transport first. Flying along Victoria Road, there are more than one bus route and one minibus route. There are actually 6 minibus routes and a number of bus routes. We would look into the locations of bus stops with the transport department to optimize the transport services. We are mindful that people coming over from the other side of Hong Kong Island will be alighting on the opposite side of Victoria Road to this mall. So we need to look at how the crossings to make it convenient. So this is about accessibility. As for traffic volume, we have made an assessment. The operation of the morgue would generate traffic, but we have made some assessment. The additional volume is very limited, although the number of bodies stored will go up. But the procedure that has to be carried out there will involve a small number of family members going there to identify the bodies. There's a very limited, there's not much chance of attracting a lot of people. It will not have a big impact on the community. As for Cavan and the facilities, of course, they have fixed E&M facilities. When we carry out the Cavan enhancement works, we need to pay attention to that. In the future, there will be storage units, multi-layered, multi-level storage units, and we would purchase a suitable number, and then there would the procedure to decide on how many that we should deploy, because we have to make use of the extra capacity to cope with the increased demand. And I don't think there will be a case whereby the E&M services will be left idle for years and then found not working when needed. Please also explain the daily operations more elaborately. The question is, can we purchase some E&M equipment later because they will be needed later? But I think the current proposal is better. We need to consider the entire building structure for fire safety installations. If we have to add something later, it will not be as reasonable. Of course, there will be annual inspections of the facilities and equipment to ensure that they are in good order. Air conditioning, you have to take care of safety, fire safety, but there are other purposes to be put there. This backup facility will be needed. So perhaps you need to have some additional air conditioning. Well, this is about the cost effectiveness. Well, we need to do house air conditioning, not just for the morgue building, the Cavan, and also the unit, mortuary units, modular refrigerator mortuary units. So we would consider the whole project as a whole. But we are flexible in operation. We can decide to switch on some of the units and not all of them. So in normal times, you would store some medical items there. What about the need to do something for that particular storage purpose? We're going to make the best use of the space. Of course, when we need to store more bodies, we use the cavern. If not, we are going to use it to store some PPEs. Mr. Lam Chan Sing, they are asking for $1.2 billion for this project. In 2022, 2 or 3 years back, when the item was discussed at the panel, the cost was put at 800 million plus, so you're asking for more this time. I have read the 2022 paper. It says that if we resort to the old proposal, it would be sufficient to meet the demand of a Hong Kong island up to 2046. We are still some way behind 2046, and now we have a fiscal deficit. Perhaps can we revert back to the old proposal and consider this new one some years down the road? If we use the $800 million proposal, then what is your estimation as regards the capacity, the sufficiency of the capacity in 2046? You said that it will be not sufficient. You need to identify new sites for Kowloon East and Kowloon West to make up for the shortfall. At this time, if we approve $1.2 billion for a bigger capacity, and then in up to, is it true that up to 2046 or 2050, there will be no further need to identify new alternative sites in Kowloon East and Kowloon West? Is that correct? The correct interpretation? I think that if that's the case, it would mean a more cost-effective project by spending $1.2 billion. You have some backup facilities included so that we can cope with emergencies such as a pandemic, which may occur once in a decade or so, or we may not need it at all. There's a need to have a backup capacity, but of course, the backup capacity is not needed all the time. How do you assess the operational efficiency? Can the backup storage capacity be located elsewhere in Kowloon East and other mortuaries, so that you don't rely just on this particular one in Victoria Road for your backup storage? Deputy Secretary. Mr. Lam Chan Sing's option is actually the rationale behind the current proposal. We submitted a previous proposal, which is a different one. This proposal is about making the best use of the cavern, so that the total storage capacity, numerically speaking, will be enhanced very significantly. In 2046, just counting Hong Kong Island alone, we need a storage capacity of 350. And now this proposal, reprovisioning of VPM, the storage would be enhanced to 1,000. So this is not just about meeting the projected need of in 2046. Well, it would do away with the need to identify another new site for more in the future. This is a difficult process when it comes to site selection, and people in the district may object if we go for their district. So this current proposal would do away with the need to build a new morgue. And so it would reduce the financial as well as social impact arising from the new need. We make use of the cavern, and if we do not stabilize and consolidate the cavern while we carry out the reprovisioning project, it would be very difficult to do this later. That is to say, we cannot just extend our capacity there in the cavern. That would not be possible without the reprovisioning of the current VPM. As you have been told by our colleague from the ASD, we are going just to spend on $200 million for the purpose of developing the cavern for that capacity. But the capacity created would be even bigger from Chung Mortuary. So it's just like we have an additional mortuary built in the cavern. This is, in our view, cost effective. Previously it was 800 million, now it's 1.2 billion. So additionally, we're going to spend $400 million, and you're saying that 200 million will be spent on the cavern. So what about the other 200 million? In 2022, we submitted a paper with a proposal that the total cost would be something like $890 million. So this time we're going to ask for additionally $300 million or so. And the need to develop the cavern would involve additionally $200 million. And from 2022 to 2024, we have to also factor in some inflation in prices. So inflation may account for, say, more than 10%. At that time, the prices were based on 2021 to 22. So we're talking about a gap of 3 years. So from 800 million plus to this current funding level, it seems that there's quite a significant increase. Well, with the larger capacity, that we need to spend more on furniture, and also we have to adjust these certain provisions according to the latest developments. So members are concerned why you have increased the funding required from $900 million to $1.2 billion, and they have asked for additional information. Please supply the information after the meeting. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong, I'm grateful to you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing up those points related to our questions, and that they are also my concerns. First of all, at the PWSC, we need to pay attention to the policy. Well, it was discussed, it was brought before the panel that they extended their support for the reprovisioning of VPM. So it has my support as well. or we need to show respect for the deceased, so we need to have proper storage capacity at our mortuaries. And we don't have much choice for the reprovisioning of VPM. Since this is located in a rather remote area, that it would be more acceptable to people living in the same district. Let me look at the overall funds required. For Sha Tin Fushan, it's 1.1 billion for 830 bodies.
According to 2022 prices, $900 million, 350 plus 276 modular units. You have 600 or so in terms of capacity. And you also have the underground cavern. I am in agreement that we have to utilize the space as much as possible. But if it's costing us an arm and a leg, I think we have to think twice about it. This is an additional $200 million, $50 million for the cavern, and $100 million for the E&M facilities. Now, the cavern is not used for mortuary in ordinary times. It will be used for the storage of medical equipment. Now, with additional $100 million plus, I'm not sure how much it's going to cost you for the E&M in the cavern. We were told that it's not costing us a lot of money. Now, I think you have to make sure that it can be used when it is needed. Now, in the interest of time, I'd like to put a few questions. Perhaps the building services, E&M, $120 million for the cavern. Does it include the modular units to be procured? Now, for these modular units, they can be folded away, and I'm sure that you need the aircon for the cavern. How can you make sure that the units can be used whenever they are needed? You need to have a storage capacity of 400 or so for the cavern. Now, you said the difficulty lies in the fact that there is a level difference of 10 meters compared with the Fushan Mortuary. In paragraph 15, you highlighted all these difficulties, but the cost would be 1.5 times more expensive. Perhaps, like the chairman said, you might wish to tell us in writing why it is costing us so much more. And also the rooftop. Now, there is an additional floor on the rooftop. Do you have any building guide in terms of the building height? Can you add another floor? Now, is it okay for you to put the E&M facilities there? Now, we are told that because of the building height, you cannot build any taller than the prescribed limit. But what about this project? Will the E&M facilities be counted as a floor? And the E&M facilities take up the plant room, are taking up a lot of space. And basically, you need the plant rooms for the aircon and the E&M facilities. But why is it that you need so much space for the plant rooms? Yes, who's going to take the question? Deputy Secretary. Chairman, I defer to the ASD on the questions raised, but I'd just like to give members some concept. We do make comparison with the Fushan mortuary, and there is a difference in terms of costs, and the cost difference reflects the complexity of the project. Now, for this reprovisioning project for VPM, the storage capacity is not lower than that for Fushan. But in terms of the floor space, this new project is only 60% of that for Fushan in terms of floor space. Now that's because in terms of space, Fushan Mortuary is more spacious. In Fushan, they have 10% space devoted to covered car parks. And if you take the cost divided by the floor space, there is a bit of difference there. But if you compare the key facilities there, the difference is not particularly significant. I defer to the ASD for the specific details. About building height, Chairman, we count the top floor, but it doesn't count the plant rooms and also the elevators. Generally speaking, it will not be more than the floor space, but depending on special circumstances, we can discuss with the relevant authorities. As to the rooftop, we use the space for cooling system, and the system doesn't have to be covered. And the space doesn't count towards the floor space. And we also have other plant rooms in the building because we need to have the drainage facilities, water tank, fire safety facilities, and so on. Now, in this site, it is 10 meters lower than the Victoria Road, and we do need to have the pumping facilities to pump out the sewage. And that would take a bit of extra space. What about the recurrent expenditure? 14 million because of the backup facilities. Can you be more specific about the price tag there? 40 million, is it recurrent expenditure? Yes. The member mentioned the E&M. Does it include the storage of bodies? Now, in the furniture, we have included the facilities for storage of bodies. We would inspect the cabin on an annual basis, and that would cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars for the regular building services and structural inspection. These are the operating expenses. Mr. Chen. Chairman, as you suggested, we asked the administration to supplement further information that the modular units will be included in the furniture, but furniture, that you need to have the space for 400 bodies. How many units do you need? Are you going to be procuring all these units and put them away? And when they are needed, you assemble them. Does the furniture costing be enough to procure these units for 400 bodies? Right, you've gone over the time. Yes, maybe you leave it to the next round. Dr. Kisson-Yang. Chairman, thank you. I support in principle the reprovisioning of the Victoria Public Mortuary. I'd like to put a question about the price tag. I feel a little bit surprised hearing the administration. You had the projection in 2022, and you must have considered the inflation. The inflationary cost must have been built in. Now, for you to say that you need an additional $100 million because you've got the sum wrong, I am concerned whether you're going to be overspending. Now, with such forecast, will you categorically say that you're not going to be asking for any additional funding? The other thing I am concerned about is the use of Kevin to increase the storage capacity for an additional 480 bodies. Now you are increasing this by $300 million. And this would be a backup facility. Now, $300 million would be enough for you to buy an industrial building. Now, touch wood, if, or God forbid, if there is an epidemic and you need to use these facilities, I don't think people would quibble over that, because in an epidemic, people would not be raising hue and cry. Now you're spending $300 million for this. Would you consider you are storing the PPTs or the facilities there in the Kevin? And I think you might wish to do it the other way around and put the plant room, put the plants there inside the Kevin, and release the site designed for the plant room purposes for something else. Now you're saying this, you are procuring the modular units, and so instead of storing the equipment, why don't you use the space to store the medication or pharmaceutical products? I think you have to think through this particular purpose. The other thing I am concerned is the utilization rate. You said you would be using this for the medical equipment. Are you going to be using the entire space of the Kevin, or are you going to be using part of the Kevin? Now for QE hospital, the acute or the A&E will be moved to a Kai-Tak hospital, and we are discussing what used to be put to a QE hospital. Now we are spending $300 million for the Kevin. Is this the right purpose for us to use the Kevin? If you are using the Kevin for the sake of using it, is undesirable. Mr. Hui? Chairman, thank you. Thanks very much, Mr. Yang, or Dr. Yang, for the question. Let me address the questions first. The ASD might wish to supplement. Now, the projected cost is a pragmatic one. We do have the tender results. We're using the new engineering contract that will see the cost to be shared, and I don't expect to be any overspend. Now, perhaps I need to explain further to Dr. Yang there. The public mortuary is different in function than the morgue in hospitals. Now we have the storage capacity of 1,000 or so for the public mortuary. Now the number of deaths in Hong Kong is more than 10,000. A lot of bodies will not be routed through the public mortuaries, and they would be deposited in the hospital mortuaries. So the two kinds of mortuaries are serving different functions, and conceptually we have to make the distinction there. Now, for unexpected events, there may be a upsurge in demand for spaces in the public mortuary. It is pretty difficult during COVID, we fully appreciate how difficult it is.
Well, whether we're talking about bodies or storage capacity, it's not something like a industrial building for storage. It's not just legally impossible. It's also not possible for public hygiene issues. At the peak of the pandemic, because of the lack of storage capacity, we could only use the site, which is not accessible to the public, a piece of flat land opposite Fushan Public Mortuary, to install some temporary facilities, which was rather undesirable. So, Mr. Young, we want to make the best use of the available facilities, and we want to be flexible. I understand that, but how we handle that body is something that we need to comply with stringent standards. And Mr. Young, rest assured that once we have created the cavern facility, we won't leave it idle until at the time we need a big storage capacity and open it up for use. Well, the cavern will not just for storage of equipment such as the modular refrigerator modular unit, and there will be also space to share the storage needs of other equipment. At present, we are leasing some premises to store the personal protective equipment and other public hygiene equipment, and they will be relocated to this cavern, so we will make the best use of it. And then there will be some economies of scale to be achieved by redistributing our storage capacity in the entire Hong Kong. Well, how would be the storage space be used? 3 years ago, there's a difference. Now of $300 million in the estimated price. Well, we're talking about the price resulting from a difference of 3 years. We are very careful about cost control. This is done under the new engineering contract approach. So we would be examining with the contractor to see how we can achieve the best cost effectiveness. As for the E&M facilities, because we need to provide the necessary fire safety installations, because the cavern will be needed in the future for storage. We can submit further information. Yes, please do so, because they are concerned that the storage of PPE will take up too much space. Dr. Lo Wai-Kok, well, I support this project to reprovision VPM, Victoria Public Mortuary. At present, there are 4 public mortuaries with a total capacity of 1,280. According to the government, we need to increase the capacity to 1,800. we have to find a solution to this increase in demand. Well, of course, if we are talking about just this capacity, the main mortuary to be provided by the BPM will be sufficient. But then we are going to have the cabin. Some members may say that we can do it later. The main mortuary will be sufficient. But our memory is still fresh. During the peak of the COVID epidemic, there was a surge in the number of deaths. There was a serious shortage of body storage facilities in both our public mortuaries and public hospitals. It's not long ago. Let's not forget this so easily. We don't want to see another epidemic seriously affecting our community. But you have heard from experts that it's estimated that just within this century, we are going to expect more epidemics, which will seriously affect our community. So we need to prepare for the worst scenarios. So my question is quite the opposite. Will the storage capacity provided be sufficient to cope with epidemics like COVID? I think this is a suitable location. It's a good way to put a cabin to good use. Because if you want to build a new mortuary, say in the NT, you have a lot of objections coming from the residents. And this cabin is already there. So it's a good chance for you to use it to expand your capacity. So my first question is, would it be good enough to cope with another epidemic? And there will be $700 million on the construction and the building services. So on average, on a per square meter basis, the unit cost is $48,000, which is on the high side. Perhaps you should take a good hard look at it. I think my colleague has already explained the reason why the construction cost is at this level. As for whether the storage capacity will enable us to cope with future threats posed by epidemic, it's difficult to say that it will be sufficient come what may, but here's the concept that I would like to share with you. At the peak, during the most serious phase of the epidemic, we need to handle some 3,000 dead bodies at the same time. At that point, the total capacity in Hong Kong was 1,200. So you may remember or recall the image projected by that particular scenario. So here we are going to make the best use, the maximum use of the space available. So there will be more than 1,000, capacity of more than 1,000. And totally we are going to have 2,000 in capacity and enable us to cope with epidemics. Please also consider adopting some user-friendly measures. Like, for example, you should provide car parking spaces because this is in a remote location. Perhaps you should allow people to go. You should allow the relatives and the bereaved families to go by car, and they need to park their cars. And the second question is about the modulated, refrigerated mortuary units, modular refrigerator mortuary unit. Please provide in writing more information on what they are. I have a question about the cost. And when I look at the breakdown figures, I'm quite alarmed. I know the government use adjusted prices instead of money of the day prices to facilitate our understanding. So I will just look at the MOD prices now. Construction and building services will cost more than 60,000 per square meter. Since you have compared with Fushan, well, it's 2018, so it's not a fair comparison. And then North Hospital 2023 is more recent. Shangshui 53, Shakib May 52,600. This project involved a cavern and also the construction of the main mortuary building. And so this leads to a question. What's the floor area of the main building and the cavern? So the answer is 9,500 for the main building, 2,200 for the cavern. You already explained that you're going to spend some $200 million on the cavern site alone. So I suppose, therefore, the cavern, there's no building works involved because you're going to spend $55 million on the enhancement works. If we just look at the construction cost for VPM, it's $30,000 per square foot. If we discount the 2,200 for the cavern, it's 32,000 per square meter. I know that for healthcare and medical related facilities, building services are more costly. And for Fushan, it's under 14,000 for building services, but here it's $30,000 per square meter. That's why I have worries. If we look at total costs, if the previous estimated cost was 800 million plus, and now it's 1.2, and among that, 200 million will go to cavern, which is not a high proportion. But based on the breakdown figures I've just quoted, I'm concerned about the building costs of the main building. If you say that the limited road access is a factor, but here we're talking about a difference on the degree of elevated cost is quite significant. I hope I can be given some message to reassure all of us. We're concerned about the cost, the changes in prices quota and the price levels. Members seem to have quite a lot of questions. So perhaps Mr. Hui can say something first.
Chairman, before I defer to the ASD, let me give members some concepts there. Mr. Lam expressed concerns about the construction and the building services, they represent the largest proportion. Thank you very much for the breakdowns, Mr. Lam. Now, from the breakdowns, you can see that for building works, the cost is slightly higher than Fushan. It is something like $30,000 per square meter. In Fushan, it does have larger floor space, and it does have the car park. If you take into account this, the discrepancy is not particularly pronounced. I think the difference lies in the building services. Obviously, there is a difference there compared with Fushan. This has to do with the necessary facilities for the operation of the mortuary, that they cannot be minimized, and some of them would be needed to support the operation of the cabin. After the meeting, we are only too pleased to supplement further information, but I defer to Mr. Young first, ASD. Chairman, the member gave us a very detailed analysis. We've also had some breakdowns. Now, for MOD prices, it is $700 million. We talked about some money devoted to the cabin to the tune of $200 million. If you discount that, if you look at the main building, vis-a-vis the MOD, it is something like $57,000. Now, we saw funding for the Subcommittee facility, also $50,000 per square meters. This is slightly higher than that. One of the reasons, I can give members one more perspective. For this project, it would take a little bit longer time. For the first year, we need to carry out improvement to the cabin, lasting for about 15 months. So the amount of money will need to be spent in the second and third year. We are happy to supplement further information in writing after the meeting. Mr. Kong, Chairman, thank you. I'm sure we do respect the deceased. I discussed the matter with the administration, and the administration seems to feel that I don't understand the rights of the deceased. I have some family members who passed away. I fully understand what happens. I am in support of this project, Chairman, but I'm grateful to you, Chairman, for asking the administration to supplement further information in writing. That would be fully appreciated because that would save a lot of discussion. Mr. Lam Chen Sing mentioned 2022, the paper in 2022. Chairman, I'd like to focus on para 9. They have the projected capacity. We need to have no less than 1,800 in terms of storage capacity. In 1999 to 2020, we have pretty stable death rate. During the epidemic, there was an upsurge, obviously, but the rate is 5.0 to 6. During COVID, it was more than 6, up to 8%. In the 2022 paper mentioned by Mr. Lam, you project that on Hong Kong Island, you need to have a mortuary with a capacity of 350. In the paper, you are spending more money, and you can have a capacity of 1,114. Now, my question is, how do you project such a sharp increase from the 2022 paper to today. I hope that the administration would give us the information in writing as to how they project the need for mortuary space. When I look at the papers on urban planning, they do have a formula to work out the caseload, having regard to a whole host of factors. I hope that they would supplement further information. My second question is a shorter one. During COVID, there are many complaints from family members that the computer system doesn't catch up and the procedures are so complicated and family members will have to run around to get things done. From the breakdown on page 5, there is nothing in connection with IT and also the upkeep of the facilities. In answer to Mr. Chen Pui-leung, the administration said that the upkeep for the cabin is not going to be really significant. Now, how much is it going to be precisely? Perhaps they can supplement after the meeting. Mr. Hui? Chairman, thank you. In terms of the projection for the demand for public mortuaries, like other parts of the world, we do have the basis. We are happy to supplement the formula after the meeting, but conceptually, and let me say something here, the death rate is or remains stable in Hong Kong, with the exception of perhaps an epidemic like COVID. So we look at the demographics as the basis. We use historical figures and statistics to project how many bodies will be out of 1 million that will be leading the mortuaries. And there is an assumption that each body will need to be deposited in the mortuary for 21 days or 3 weeks for processing. And then we use different population strata all over Hong Kong. And we look at the population distribution to come up with the projection for Hong Kong, Kowloon, and the New Territories, and the caseload that will be required for the mortuaries. This is an average figure, and we do need to factor in a buffer to cater for the seasonal changes. But that doesn't include what Ms. Doreen Kong said a moment ago, that is the unexpected events as a result of communicable diseases. So that's how we arrive at the statistics. You might wish to supplement further information after the meeting about the projection now vis-a-vis 2022. IT, I defer to my colleague. Well, yes, IT. The mortuaries do use the RFID to make sure that there will not be any mix-up of the bodies. Now, the member talked about the procedures being cumbersome. We appreciate that. We are upgrading the computerization system in the mortuaries. Now, before the upgrade, only the staff members would be able to check the information, but with the upgrade, the family members will also be able to get access to the information. This is a separate project altogether. Yes, for the day-to-day upkeep and the fallback storage, perhaps you might wish to supplement in writing after the meeting. Mr. Benson Look, Chairman. Now we are facing a fiscal deficit. We have to tighten our belt, obviously. And when we look at the capital projects, we have to see whether there is a necessity. From the paper, the administration is saying that for this VPM in 2046, it would be able to cope with the demand, and in addition, it would be able to cope with unexpected upsurge in demand. Post-COVID, I'm sure that we have to have the bottom line thinking. We have to strengthen our thinking there. And I am in agreement that we ought to have some sort of a buffer. But I am a little bit concerned when I look at the price tag. Now for this project, it is something like $49,000 per square meters. Fushan, it is $33,000. So just the presence of Kevin would add to the price tag by 50%. And annual expenditure would be something like $40 million. And that probably has to do with the presence of the Kevin. So has the administration considered other sites that will enable us to meet the demand? So that would make a difference as to whether we would support this project. I am also concerned about ESG, the green cause. Para 34, 200 or so trees will be involved. 78 would be removed, and they will be compensating planting because of the site constraint. 34 trees will be planted somewhere else. So which department will be responsible for the tree planting? Can we have the same number of trees there as a result of the project? Mr. Hui? Yes, the recurrent expenditure arising from the Kevin. And this is taking up a small proportion of the $40 million. Of course, we have to do a lot of consolidation work in the course of the project. But for the day-to-day operation, it is merely a cooling facility, and each year it is going to cost us $2 to $3 million for the utilities. And for the $40 million, a quarter of the expenditure would be for the staff members running this facility. For the others, they are basically for the day-to-day utility bills. So the recurrent expenditure for the Kevin is not taking up a huge proportion. The member also asked us whether there are any alternatives to the Kevin. Conceptually, we can consider that, but there are challenges. First off, we experience difficulties identifying land. Now, the bodies are put in the mortuary, and they are taking up the space, as I explained earlier. These are the bodies that arise from a natural cause of death, and we do need to have autopsy, and we need to have all the facilities for autopsy. And we also have the facilities for the bereaved family to claim the bodies. It would be hard for us to brief out the storage of the bodies, and it's simply impossible for the bodies to be transported back and forth for autopsy, and because that would present a lot of logistic difficulties. That's precisely the reason why we need to have the cabin side by side the mortuary. And that's because of the logistics and also the supplementary function. Thank you.
關於個樹
Maybe we can have something on trees, and although there are many constraints posed by the site, but we have something for trees. Well, there are 35 trees which cannot be compensated by compensatory planning within the same site, but we have doing some tree planting in another site in the same district. Well, we have a dedicated unit to monitor tree planting or tree relocation and compensatory planting. The unit would certainly make sure that the compensation is fully implemented. I have a question about the building plans. Let's see, the first one is on the LG second floor. Above it, or on that level, at the level we have autopsy suite, and there are observation area or autopsy viewing rooms is in the public area, accessible area. Does it mean that the public would be allowed to view the operation in the autopsy suite there? And on the plan showing the underground levels, well, there is a ceremony hall and incense and offerings burning facilities. So are they available for use for the family members? And you also have loading and unloading areas with 3 parking spaces. On the right hand side near the letter A, I believe that those spaces are for the officers there. So the design is such that all visitors would go there by public transport. And the last area is about the construction cost. You have slope and cavern enhancement works, $55.6 million. What will be covered by this? Mr. Hui? As regards the operation of the public mortuary, let me say something in respect of those questions raised. Although the autopsy viewing rooms are marked as public area, it doesn't mean that anyone any member of the public would be able to go there. But there are viewing rooms for training purposes. The trainees, specialists will be able to use those rooms to observe the autopsy. And sometimes law enforcement agency officers will need to understand the autopsy operation and the findings. So that's for those purposes. It doesn't mean that any members of the public can go there. We have learned from the Fushan that the ceremony hall is needed. Once the family claims a body from the public mall, and usually the body will be in a particular way of they may have a special need to say do some farewell ceremony, and then the body will be cremated. We are just talking about a basic farewell ceremony. And those participating will be direct family members, and the number will be limited. So we provide this additional option for the family members to do this ceremony. And they can also burn some joss papers there as part of the ceremony. As for the parking spaces, because of the limited space available, they are only for the officers working there. But of course, visitors arriving in a car or a taxi can actually enter the lay-by there, but they have to set down their passengers and leave immediately. As for total cost, Mr. Young, there's a question on slope and cavern enhancement works. The money is mainly spent on the cavern because it used to be a magazine, and we need to improve the safety level. But there's a slope within the site. We need to introduce some measures to stabilize the slope. Dr. Junius Ho. Compared with the cost of Fushan, this would be 40% more expensive. Public works projects tend to be expensive. But it seems that we are working on a very thin margin, and the provision is never sufficient. But a lot of money will be paid to the consultants, and they have resident staff where you have to pay for them. We are spending, the government is spending $100 billion a year on projects, but you are paying $8 to $9 billion to consultants, and I'm still not counting anything under the table. it seems that the beneficiaries are not getting a lot out of our projects. This one would be completed in 5.5 years, and there's not much need for enhancement for the cavern, just do some finishing. But of course, slope works is more costly. Now you have a provision of $55 million. It's $48,000 per square meter for the project. Where's the efficiency unit? We need the efficiency unit to put a signature to vouch for this. Well, if I have to sign a check, I need someone to submit a voucher, and then I need someone to counter check. Well, since you have a dedicated unit for enhancement, you need to involve them to take a good look at this. So first of all, there's a lack of proper monitoring. There's no assessment of cost effectiveness. All right. After 2030, we have 1/3 of our population age 60 or above. So perhaps the projected storage capacity is warranted, but you need to deliver at that point. Well, when we discussed Fushan, I said this. Well, this was a public facility that we needed, and we were to provide a mortuary. We must as well make sure that it's a good facility, showing our respect, and there's the consideration of dignity for the deceased. So although this is a very sad business, we need to show them some warmth. So we need to include something that would create warmth, although we're talking about something very sad. And you should do some public education to allow people to understand this. Well, there's a recent movie on this, and there's also a Japanese movie on how the disease is treated. The recent Hong Kong film, Last Dance, was a good example. Mr. Chairman, I would give my approval to the sum required, but you need to take something away from contingency or consultants' fees. We're talking about $25 million. Take something from that to enable us to create an atmosphere of warmth and some public education activities, so that the facility gives people warmth. Well, I think he was expressing his personal opinion that that's a very deep profit margin here. Well, it's not a very fair accusation. You have to present some evidence. If members do not understand certain things or there's a lack of information, the administration can, of course, supply more information for members' reference. And then we may come to a balanced decision as to whether we agree or not. But as chairman, I have to clarify that certain points you made. Of course, it's fair. We are concerned about the costs. And of course, we can ask for supplementary information. But if the accusation is general, so general, then it's your personal experience, your personal comment. You say it's public works tend to be expensive. Well, perhaps then you need to bear in mind that we have a competitive tendering system.
為你嗰個
I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't have said what you said, but I'm just stating my position. Thank you. Chairman, I heard what Dr. Ho had to say. Now, when we build the public mortuaries, we have to consider the public perception. For the old mortuaries, people get a creepy feeling. Now, for the Fushan mortuary, we have built up pretty good experience. It is far away from the residential dwellings, but if you look at the building itself, you may associate it with some sort of community facilities, not so much a public mortuary. So with this VPM project, the paper used the phrase no frills, fit for purpose, because we're using taxpayers' money, but we would bear in mind the public perception. So in our design, we put the mortuary on a slope, which is close to the waterfront, and it is heavily vegetated, and there is also some walking trail, and people don't really have to be frightened by these facilities. We're adopting this no-frill design instead of the old clinical kind of design that the old mortuaries used to have. So we hope that the members of the public would appreciate that death is part of the life cycle, and we do respect the disease, and I hope that the public would accept the mortuary as time goes by. Have you vetted the costing? Dr. Ho mentioned the project strategy and government office. Mr. Young, Chairman, this project, like other project, we would liaise with the PSGO, and the PSGO has sight of this project. In terms of the consultancy fee, this is somewhat different from the Fushan facility. In Fushan, we used internal team for design, but this project we do have a consultant to do the design and the management, so that made a difference to the price tag. Well, Dr. Ho said also that other departments or the PSGO would vet this, and he would like to have more information to show that you have really done that. And I don't think this is a matter of formality. I'm sure that you have the internal guidelines to follow. So this is by way of clarification. And if necessary, you may wish to clarify this in the paper. Mr. Chu Kwok-keung, Chairman, I support this reprovisioning project. It is really a good idea to use the cavern for storage purposes. As a result of the reprovisioning, we have the capacity of 1,000, and this is really somewhat short of the 1,800 capacity that we need. So I'm wondering whether in Fushan and other mortuaries we can make use of the caverns likewise. During COVID, we saw bodies being put in the A&E departments or the refrigerated temporary facilities. Now, my question for the administration: do you have any medium and long-term plan for increasing the storage capacity? Deputy Secretary? Well, let me explain a little bit in terms of numbers. That the 1,000 capacity is the capacity we have, taking into account the backup facilities as well. But for the Fushan mortuary, as a result of the upgrading in 2023, there is a capacity of 800. The Kwai Chung mortuary, it is a little bit old, but it still has a capacity of 200. So with this reprovisioning, the total storage capacity would be more than 2,000. In special circumstances, we can still expand the Fushan mortuary a little bit by resorting to the modular unit. So I'm sure that we should have a capacity of more than 2,000. And this would more than meet the target of 1,800 in 2046. So this is by way of clarification in terms of the caseload and the storage capacity. That the target is 1,800 in 2046, and in the light of the COVID experience, we do need to have a buffer. So that's the planning for the situation going forward. This project is important because in 2046 and thereafter, we do need to have an additional public mortuary project. Second round. Mr. Chen Shu-hong is not here. Dr. Kissen Yang. Chairman, thank you. If I may follow up on the pricing, the chairman asked the administration to supplement more information. Now, the price tag is $1.29 billion. There is an additional sum of $100 million. The administration said they would make available further information. Now, I'd like to follow up on this. You need to have the E&M, the refurbishment. I'm suggesting that for the pumping station or plant rooms, we might wish to put them in the cavern. Would it be any cheaper or more expensive if we proceed like this? Now, if we put the pumping facilities into the cavern, it would be more expensive, and we're not really making a lot of savings, then I would retract my suggestion. But if all these facilities are put in the cavern, and we create more room, which is more valuable than what it is presented now, then it would be worth considering. Perhaps you might wish to give us some ideas about the price tag that way. Now, we support the reprovisioning of the mortuary. We support the use of the backup space. But how can we put this space to the best possible use? You should really consider this. If you use this for the storage of PPE and so on, and you say that you will have the backup facilities, the modular units, and why don't you use this for the storage of PPEs and emergency supplies? If you think that this is a really good idea, then the modular facilities will not be damaged too much. You really have to consider all these other facilities. Right, point taken. 3 minutes only for the second round. A brief reply, please. Deputy Secretary. Yes, I'll be brief, Chairman. For the cabin, we have considered the unexpected events, and in these kind of situations, we need to have the PPEs that will be taken out, and we can use the empty space for the modular units. So the two are supplementary. We take out the PPEs and then we put in the modular units. But that's not the only use that we can put the cabin to. We would consider other ways that we can use the cabin. If there are other use that we can make of the cabin, we'll certainly consider that. Like Dr. Young suggested, we can put other supplies in the cabin. We certainly consider this in principle. As to the pumping station, the plant rooms, whether they can be housed in the cabin, conceptually, this may not be a no-no, but in terms of the physical condition, it may not be suitable. I leave it to Mr. Young, ASD. Turn up the mic, please. Chairman. For plant rooms, we can supplement further information. This would be complicated technically. We did consider that before. Yes, more information after the meeting. Dr. Loy Kwok, Chairman. When I spoke during the first round, I said that this reprovisioned mortuary in Victoria will be more user-friendly, and there should be more parking facilities. And I hope that the administration will explain to us in terms of parking, what is the situation like, and is there any room for more parking spaces to be provided? Deputy Secretary. Chairman, thank you. Right, for parking facilities, there is very, very limited room. As you can see from the design drawings, all the available space has been reserved for the main building, and we are maxing out the building restrictions there, so the space available for parking would be just two spaces for vehicles, and these will only be able to meet the needs of the staff members there. For the entire public mortuary, we rely very much on public transport, buses, minibuses, and in our design, there is a little crescent space where vehicles and taxis can drive in for loading and unloading passengers, and I don't think we have enough space for parking purposes. Dr. Low, I'm terribly unhappy with this reply. I'm not suggesting that you build a car park there. Do we have any roads, any space in the vicinity that will accommodate certain vehicles? Now, the storage capacity would be as much as 1,000. You can imagine a situation where every single day there would be vehicular traffic into and out of this mortuary. If you've been through bereavement, you must appreciate that the traffic arrangement is leaving so much to be desired in the crematorium or in the mortuary. Even the hearses will have to be are really getting stuck there. Why can't you provide some space for the sake of the residents?
呢方面楊總監因為佢副秘書。
Any thoughts on Mr. Hui? I understand where the problems lie, but we have to understand this has nothing to do with the project cost, but the constraint of the site. Well, you are going to spend $1.2 billion, but you can't do anything to accommodate the families when they have to handle the ceremony. We can take a look. Well, don't say no now, right? Well, I seldom speak in such an emotional manner. Oh, Mr. Hui, your response. Since you have got no answer, please provide a written reply after the meeting. We'll look into the parking spaces available in the neighborhood. Miss Doreen Kong, can the administration provide some additional information? In the paper, paragraphs 9 and 10 mention that the storage capacity is needed to increase the overall storage of a mortuary so as to cope with this upsurge in demand amid epidemics. But this was not mentioned in the 2022 paper. Maybe that at the time you didn't take into account the epidemic. I have referred to international practice in planning for mortuary. In 2023, they have a health building note 2021 in the UK. So they have a look into the need for a permanent facility to deal with bodies during epidemics. They have an explanatory note.
To cater permanently for excess death events. 嗱，我唔緊要，我而家唔係挑戰你哋，咁你可唔可以喺保
So I hope they can explain that we are doing this in Hong Kong. You think it's cost effective to provide permanent storage capacity, but other countries are not doing the same. We would like to give a suitable account to our citizens. And I hope the Bureau can tell us whether you have done your utmost to compress the cost. And this funding level required is the result of that stringent exercise of compression costs. And I very much agree with Dr. Lo Wai Kok about car parking spaces. I've received complaints that even in public hospitals, there is a shortage of parking spaces. You cannot expect people to use public transport to access these remotely located facilities. On the so-called unexpected death occurring, well, that's a different consideration here. We have a rather dense living environment. If there's an emergency, we have very limited choice to expand our body storage capacity. Generally speaking, if such a situation happens, then all the mortuaries in public hospital will be taken up, and we can only rely on public mortuaries. There's no way we can commandeer some other facilities to deal with the need for body storage. Different cities may have different needs to meet. And that's why we need to have this contingent facilities. Other places may have other options. They can resort to alternatives that we don't have. And of course, we can provide written information after the meeting. Well, we have scheduled today's meeting for 2 hours. It will end by 10:30. So theoretically, we can extend the meeting time today, of course, subject to members' agreement. So perhaps we can extend the meeting in the first instance to 11, because there's another item on the agenda. If it cannot be dealt with today, we have to arrange another meeting, which may only be happening very much later. So if members do not object, I would like to extend the meeting to 11 o'clock first. And then, of course, if members agree, we can further extend the meeting time. Okay?
假設大家冇異議，首先延長。
So I suppose there's no objection, so we'll extend the meeting time to 11 o'clock. Thank you. Next, Mr. Holden Chow. I've heard other members' speeches, and I just want to follow up one particular point. The reprovisioning project is premised on one particular reason. You are going to increase the capacity by 1,000. That would be sufficient to cope with special needs, for example, some epidemics. At present, there are other public mortuaries. If we complete this project and we can cope with unforeseen demands because of some cases of epidemic. What about the other 3 public mortuaries? I don't know. We will need to reprovision them. Are you saying that we do this one, and for the other 3 there will be there won't be a need to do something similar at a similar scale? Because quite a lot of public funds will be expended if we were to do that. This particular project's construction cost on a per square meter basis is a bit expensive, more expensive than the Sha Tin Mortuary. Of course, you have explained that because Kevin is involved. So the question is, if we do this, there would be no need to do similar things for the 3 other public mortuaries, or are we expecting to see similar projects for the other 3? I just want to clarify this point. Deputy Secretary, Mr. Hui. Actually, we have already expanded the storage capacity of Fushan, so we're not going to do anything about Fushan. As for Chung public mortuary, we have no plan for expansion. So the member's observation is right, and that in the foreseeable future, after completing this particular reprovisioning project, there will be no other similar project. As regards the Kowloon public mortuary, it was decommissioned for a long time. And why is it that we are willing to surrender it? Well, it's because the usage before this reprovisioning project is completed, the usage rate is 130% for Kowloon. So we cannot surrender Kowloon Public Mortuary at this point, just in case we need it. So if and when BPM is reprovisioned, we'll be able to give up Kowloon Public Mortuary. So there will be no further reprovisioning projects for other mortuaries. I'm asking this on behalf of Mr. Chen Siu Hong. His question is about the cavern. It's in the shape of a long strip of land. A lot of resources will be needed for fire safety installations and other management operations. There will be an additional burden on the operation costs. So the question is, before there's a need to commission the cavern, you may perhaps do away or switch off the air conditioning on the ventilation system. So perhaps you can have a phase project, so that you would only switch on the a ventilation system for a particular section in the cavern when it's needed. That may achieve some savings, and he would like to get a reply in writing. Yes, I believe you must have considered this. Perhaps you can provide the information in your reply. A simple response can be made here. As long as the fire safety requirements are met, when it comes to equipment that will require electricity consumption, for example, the refrigerated modular unit that will be flexible in our deployment. Dr. Junius Ho, 2 questions. I would like to refer to enclosure 1 for the design of the cavern. But the bridges can use the cavern as a magazine, and so perhaps we should not do some patching up. Perhaps we can extend it. Look at the length, the entire loop, with a length of 300 meters, unless you want to use it to practice 400-meter race. Then otherwise, it's really an awful working environment. Well, this is a job that no one wants. If we want to do a better job in the reprovisioning of the mortuary, I would be generous if you spend more in improvement. You not have a consultant looking into the plan, but you does not ask him to give you new ideas. Well, the Fushan Public Mortuary has a car park. So, what did you tell the consultant in your instruction brief? How do you describe your requirement? But this is a tunnel structure. If I were working there, I would feel uncomfortable. Of course, the bodies stored there don't have any feeling. But this is a 300-meter long tunnel. It's easy to excavate and expand a tunnel. Of course, there are they use boring machines. Perhaps you can expand the capacity by widening it. There will be 1,000 storage. Say that a family has 2 members. You're asking every one of them to go by bus or minibus. They may have a big group of relatives going there in a coach. It's not user friendly. You don't have empathy. I'm interested to know the difference between Fushan and this one. If there is a consultant involved, that there's no car park, and when there's no consultant, you have a car park for users, or you just very unsympathetic.
Mr. Hui. For the cabin, the movement of the staff in and out of the cabin, we do have regard to their safety, the lighting, the ventilation. This will be taken into account. Now for the tunnels, for the tunnel in the cabin, 300-meter tunnel, we have 3 to 4 meter wide, and this is in line with the requirements. Now, Dr. Ho is suggesting that we should expand or widen the cabin, but that would come with a price, and the costing would be vastly different. In taking forward this project, we would certainly would like to take advantage of the space there on the basis of what we need without incurring additional costs. I heard what Dr. Ho has to say, but I don't think members would agree that we should boost the budget to do anything about the cabin. Dr. Ho expressed concern about the flow of people. Now let me explain the operation of the public mortuaries. When the family members turn up to claim the bodies, they will have to do it by appointment, and they will need to coordinate with the staff there at the mortuary. Now, when this mortuary is up and running, the daily number of family members claiming bodies there would be something like 10. At the present moment, for the other mortuaries, we are talking about single digit. And also, funerals will not be taking place in the public mortuary. There is a room where the bereaved families can mourn the deceased, but there is no rites that will be performed there, and the funeral will be taking place in the funeral parlor. Now, all these will not be happening inside the public mortuary. That's not part of the function of the mortuary. So that explains why we are designing the ingress and egress the way we do. It's not the same as the funeral parlors in Hong Kong, where the cars are parked along the street. That's not how it works. Dr. Ho? Well, let me supplement this. In Fushan Mortuary, they have the funeral $16,000 for mortuary Buddhist rites, $17,000, Christian $16,000. There is a price list there. What I'm trying to say is that they do have the price list there in Fushan Mortuary. They can pray and mourn and see off the bodies. Well, I'm sure that you've got the point across. After Mr. Chu Kwok-keung, you might wish to take the floor again. Mr. Chu, Chairman. Now, members expressed different opinions about using the cavern for storing the PPEs and the supplies. So can we use the caverns to store the dead bodies from the hospitals? Mr. Hui? At the present moment, we don't have this plan. As I said in answer to previous questions, I've already explained that the function of public mortuaries and the hospital mortuaries may overlap sometimes, but basically they're serving different functions. For hospitals, the doctor will be certifying the death of a patient, and the bereaved families can deal with the arrangement there in the hospital mortuaries. But for public mortuaries, the cause of death has yet to be identified, and the deceased will have to be sent to the public mortuary for autopsy and all the other procedures, and a hearing may take place. So that's the only connection with the hospital. And for unexpected events, do we really need to take full advantage of the capacity of the public mortuary and the hospital mortuaries? We will deal with the situation in a special manner, but ordinarily the hospital mortuaries would be able to cope with the demand. Dr. Julius Ho expressed his views about the operation of the Fushan mortuary. I let the Deputy Secretary respond to this in 2 minutes. Now, for the Fushan mortuary, there is the simple ceremony that can be performed, but this is a commercial activity. But the funeral service would not normally be taking place at the Fushan mortuary. We have to look at the utilization for Fushan mortuary. People tend to go there by MTR and the shuttle bus to travel to the mortuary. Basically, they're traveling there by public transport. In Fushan, the space is enough to accommodate the parking of private vehicles. But as I said earlier, in this reprovisioned mortuary, the site and the connecting Victoria Road is subject to a lot of constraints. It's not that we don't really consider the transport arrangement, but we have to consider the picture as a whole. Dr. Ho, a third round. Now, the Deputy Secretary gave us such detailed answer, and I don't mind cutting off or cutting back on the consultancy fee. And this price tag includes the sum for the consultancy. Now, this is costing us $1.2 billion. And you are really shutting out our suggestions. You seem to be really smarter than the consultant. I think we have to make it user-friendly. If we cannot do anything about the existing environment, I would accept that, but we're starting afresh. please do not talk about the price tag to start with. The purpose, it must be a purpose-oriented. We have to make sure that it is fit for purpose. 2 minutes for the third round. Deputy Secretary, I would you kindly make a response. I appreciate what Dr. Ho has to say. With any projects, we have to be no frills. We have to have a value for money. So given the budget constraint, given the site constraint, if we can optimize the site to improve the satisfaction and the cost effectiveness, we are only delighted to consider some adjustments to achieve that. Right, perhaps after the meeting, please give us some considerations. I'm sure you must have considered a lot of different options. So please let us have more information after the meeting. All right, if members don't have any further questions on this item, I will put this item to the vote. Will those in favor of PWSC 2024-25-22 please raise their hands? Those against? No. I think members voting are all in favor of the proposal. The paper is endorsed. All right. Whether we should have this item discussed at the Finance Committee, under the procedure 41A, I will put this to the vote. This committee proposes that the Finance Committee further discuss paper PWSC bracket 2425 bracket 22. Now, should this motion be passed, then the FC will have further discussion on this item. If this is voted down, that means we do not recommend that FC further discuss the paper. With those in favor of the motion, please raise their hands. Those against? So the motion is rejected by all the members voting. The motion has been voted down. The committee does not recommend that the Finance Committee further discuss this paper. PWSC bracket 2024-25-22. Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Chairman, very briefly, I don't see the need for any further discussion at the Finance Committee. But in terms of parking, if the administration doesn't give us a good enough reply, I do not rule out the possibility of this being discussed at the Finance Committee. Of course, we have taken the vote for this not to be discussed further at the FC, but there is always a mechanism whereby members can suggest a further discussion at the FC. We're all aware of that. So much for this item. Thank you very much for being with us and all the officials there. We move on to the next item. Shall we invite the officials in, please? Item 3. (883CL) Site formation and infrastructure works for public housing near Chai Wan Swimming Pool. 880CL Site formation and infrastructure works for public housing at A Kung Ngam Village. And 776CL Site formation and infrastructure for public housing development at Kam Tin South, Yuen Long, Phase 2. So there are 3 locations, but basically they involve the site formation for public housing. So I agree that we put these 3 together in one single paper.
嗰間有關
But if members have comments on individual projects, feel free to ask your follow-up questions. It's 883CL, 880CL, and 776CL. The proposal is to upgrade these 3 projects at a MOD prices of $646.7 million and $572.3 million and $43.8 million respectively. On the 6th of May 2024, in respect of projects 883CL, 880CL, and also on the 3rd of February 2025, in respect of project 776CL, consulted the panel on housing. Members generally support the submission of the 3 funding proposals for this subcommittee consideration. The gist of the discussions has been sent to members through email on the 18th of February 2025. And the list of officials in attendance have been forwarded to members, and I won't introduce them one by one. Welcome to all the officials in attendance. And there are 5 members who would like to ask questions: Mr. Lam Chan Sing, Mr. Andrew Leung, Mr. Leung Man Kwong, Mr. Lee Chan Keung, and Mr. Everett Leung. The officials in attendance would give an introduction by using a PowerPoint presentation. Chairman, members, good morning. I'm here to seek your support for the upgrading of 3 projects, 883CL, 880CL, and 776CL, regarding site formation and infrastructure works, so that we can take forward 3 projects for sites near Chai Wan Swimming Pool and another one near A Kung Ngam Village, and also a site at Kam Tin South. Here, the area marked in yellow would involve site formation, and also ancillary works such as road works and the reprovisioning of a skateboard ground. There's a difference in elevation of 45 meters for that site. A lot of excavation of earth and some soil now will be needed for the stabilization of the slope. As for the site area for the development near the Chai Wan Swimming Pool, it's 4.2 hectares. For the projects near A Kung Ngam Village, we have to build a retaining wall, demolish an existing industrial building, and there are building structures near the peripheral. We have to build a retaining wall with a length of 160 meters. The difference in elevation is 60 meters, involving a slope. A lot of excavation will be required to remove earth and stones, and some advanced preparation will be needed on the slope, such as temporary vehicular access. The area concerned is 2.4 hectares and 1.4 hectares in net area. The departments have been in close communication to overcome obstacles such as the difference in topography and elevation. The third project is Kam Tin South. The yellow area is the site area involving the formation of 1.3 hectares of land and doing some slope work as well as drainage works. This is more straightforward than the previous two projects. There will be some land filling of approximately 1.3 meters. The maximum height of the retaining wall is 1.5 meters. This is the remaining portion of Kam Tin Nam's public housing projects, including 0.2 hectares of commercial land and the land for the previous stage has been in progress, and we are handing over the sites to Housing Authority. The layout would have to take into account factors such as building height and infrastructure works. We have been striving to achieve the maximum number of housing units, and we would be working hand in hand with CEDD on how to optimize the design to achieve the best cost effectiveness. And at the MOD prices, we estimate that the three projects will cost $604.7 million, $572.3, and in respect of Kam Tin South, $43.8 million. I'm happy to take questions from members. Thank you, Mr. Lam. Members, we have agreed to extend the meeting to 11 o'clock. And now we have 5 members who would like to ask questions. In order to allow the 5 members to ask their questions, we will have exceeded the original time limit of 11 o'clock. Of course, we can always defer this to a future meeting. But that would mean that it would take place on the 20th of March. If no other member would ask questions and we all agree that the meeting be extended to 11:30, then we'll be able to deal with this item now. So perhaps first of all, I have to ascertain whether there are other members. Well, I cannot really foresee whether there are other members who would join us and ask questions later. So first of all, any objection to the extension of meeting time? Because it's quite a significant extension. If not, then we have Mr. Lam Chan Sing, 4 minutes. Please be succinct. Well, the projects would involve slope work, which will incur certain expenditure. As Dr. Junius Ho has said, that the consultancy fees will be needed unless we change the entire work procedure. That will be unavoidable. We know that the construction work in the private sector is declining, but we need to take forward these projects which would have improved people's livelihood. Otherwise, there will be adverse implications for the construction sector and the livelihood of a lot of people. So first of all, I agree that we should facilitate such projects. There's a paper in the Eastern District Council concerning the A Kung Ngam Village project. The meeting will only be 20 meters away from the source of noise, that is the highway there. how can you make sure that the air quality and the noise impact will not be too much for the resident there? You are going to have 7 blocks for the A Kung Ngam Village. The building height is 110 meter, which is lower than other PLH blocks. There are constraints posed by the slope and the site. Is it the reason why you cannot have higher blocks? And also, when you do the site formation, have you put in place the access planning for residents? Well, it's close to the MTR station and also the Main Street, Chai Wan Main Street. Are you going to provide proper access to the MTR station? In some other projects, you may provide a lift, but no elevator. So what's the provision for accessibility for this particular housing project? Mr. Lam. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Lam for supporting the 3 proposed projects. As regards the 2 projects in the Eastern Districts and the environmental impact assessment, I'll ask my colleague from the CEDD to respond. As for the building height, as well as the overall connectivity arrangements, I'll ask Mr. Wong, or my colleague Mr. Wong, to respond. CEDD, Mr. Chen. Mr. Chen. Mr. Victor Chen. In the study we conducted, we did look into the noise impact. We have done an assessment. We think that we can live within the current legal limits. We have talked to the housing department about this. We can do something, some relief, provide some relief through the orientation of the building blocks. Thank you for your question. There are 7 blocks. The building height it has been considered in conjunction with neighboring buildings. And also there's a monument. We have to consider the visual impact. And that's a balanced decision. And not all the building blocks of the public housing, as they will range from 80 to 110 MPD, and so that it will be a staggered building height pattern. And there are 3 platforms for the different residents of different blocks to facilitate the access to Chai Wan Center. There's a direct access for residents to go to Chai Wan Town Center. Mr. Andrew Lam, I would like to talk about 880CL A Kung Ngam Village project. This project would create 1,500 PRH units. You've now adjusted the average cost per unit. I would like to know how you are able to achieve that saving or reduction in cost. And compare with another project in Chai Wan, 200,000 plus this particular project will be at a cost of $380,000 per unit, which is still higher. Well, one of the constraints that prevents you from building more units is the building height. Have you communicated with relevant departments to suitably reduce the constraints? Can you, for example, create a better layout by reducing the number of blocks to 7 to 6, and also achieve a lower building cost? And have you talked to the relevant departments for these issues? If so, is there any room to upwardly adjust the number of units to be produced from the current 1,500? If so, what's the number you have in mind?
Mr. Wong. Thank you, Chairman. Thanks very much, Mr. Wong. Mr. Lam for the question. Well, after the panel meeting, we have reduced the costs. In fact, after the meeting, we liaised with the CEDD to enhance the model. The site formation for the platform has been increased or elevated by 0.6 meter, and that would minimize the risk of flooding, and that would also keep down the cost. And for the layout of the buildings, we also reviewed that to avoid any conflict with the slope work, and that contributed to the savings. As to the total number of units, 1,500, as we explained in Enclosure 2, in the detailed design, there will be further adjustment. Thank you very much, Mr. Lam, for the suggestion. We would liaise with the relevant departments. The height and the noise will be reviewed. In the vicinity, the height restriction is 80 mpd, and this is a desirable height. As to the noise, we collaborated with the EPD, and we will be doing some truncation or some setback. And we are taking advantage of the footprint of the building in this regard. And we are confident that after consultation with the relevant departments, we're going to be seeing an increase of 200 units. Mr. Lam asked whether there can be any further enhancement for the 7 blocks. Indeed, there would be more enhancement going forward. And this will be under construction in 2028. There will be further enhancement as we go along. Mr. Scott Leung, Chairman, in principle, I support these 3 projects because they are public housing development projects. I'd like to focus my attention on the infrastructure development for the project near Chai Wan Swimming Pool. Now, there is a road leading from Sunha Street into that project. It is a cul-de-sac. Chairman, with this kind of design, is it suitable in a public housing estate? I raised my doubts in 2015. The CEDD carried out the site formation for Lin Chung Road. At the district council level, I raised objection to this cul-de-sac arrangement. That's because if there are vehicles parked there, if there is congestion, that it would cause a tailback. The administration said boldly that there would not be any problems, but now 4 days in a week, we really have to call the police to deal with the congestion. Even the police vans are stuck there. There are 3 blocks, 7,000 residents. There are also community facilities, and people are coming in from outside. Would this design be suitable is there any way you can do something about the entrance to the housing estate? Mr. Lam? Chairman, thank you. Thanks very much, Mr. Leung, for supporting this project. As to the road design, I defer to Mr. Chen from the CEDD. Mr. Victor Chen. Chairman, thank you. Now, regarding the Sanha Street access road, this particular site is situated on an elevated platform. It's connected with Sanha Street next to the swimming pool, and is also connected with Chai Wan Road. And there is a 30-meter difference or level difference in between. So on Sanha Street, we have enhanced the access road and the roundabout, and there is sufficient room to accommodate the heavy-duty vehicles, the buses and commercial vehicles, for them to turn around. The Sanha Street is standard 7.3 meter, and we are expanding this to 8.3 meters. And there is also the lay-by to allow additional space to deal with any traffic accidents. Now, for Chai Wan Road, whether there can be an additional junction to be created there. Now, we have to bear in mind the level, the elevator level, and it does present some challenges, and it's not going to be cost effective if we do so. But we have provided a footbridge there for the residents. Mr. Leung, Chairman, I understand the level difference there. They like to widen the road to ease traffic congestion. If anything were to happen there, I hope that you will enhance the design. Because at the end of the day, it would be too late to make any improvement if it is cast in concrete, right? They will not be repeating what happened before. Mr. Lee Chen-ko, Chairman, I served Chai Wan as a district councillor. I understand that the public housing development near the swimming pool is all set to go ahead. I am just as concerned about this as Mr. Leung. The Sanha Street is a narrow road. There are secondary schools and there is a swimming pool. How can you make sure that this project will not affect the water quality in the swimming pool? Now, it's going to be very dusty with so many haulage vehicles there. And some vehicles will be using Sanha Street and Wingping Street and catch the Island Eastern Corridor. I know that you will be enhancing the arrangement, but how can you make sure that the section leading up to the Island Eastern Corridor can be widened? There is a Swire project that is being built. The population is going to be really enormous in the days to come. And you have ivy, and people tend to rely so much on the minibuses. So I am a little bit concerned about the connectivity. Will you ensure that there will be better connectivity with the Chai Wan or Heng Fa Chun MTR station? And South Wan, the site is 2.4 hectares. The area is 2.4 hectares, but the site footprint is 1.4 hectare. There is 1 hectare of spare capacity. When are you going to be using this spare capacity? Yes, please. I defer to the CDD to deal with one of the questions, and Mr. Wong will be dealing with the other part of the question. CDD. Thank you very much for the question. For the Chai Wan site, in our study, the traffic connectivity remains our focus. I must say that Sun Ha Street is a two-way street, single lane, two-way street is a standard road. There is a mention of the circular going up to the Island Eastern Corridor. In this project, we have to enhance the neighboring junctions, including the circular. And we will be enhancing the functions of the circular. There will be a designated lane, left turning into an Island Eastern Corridor. And this would ramp up the efficiency of the roundabout during rush hours. There is a mention of the air quality in the course of work. In our contract, there is an express clause that requires the contractor to minimize the dust pollution. They have to hose down the vehicles. They have to make sure that there is a pool to clean up the wheels of the haulage vehicles to minimize the air pollution. Let me supplement on the site. Now, this is 2.4 hectares. That's the total area of the site. Under the HKPSG, the net area excludes the neighboring roads, the ancillary facilities, and the slope. So this is a planning consideration. We have discounted the area of the slope. However you define the size or the area, the CEDD would have full regard to traffic, visual, air ventilation, and so on when we carry out the project. Thank you very much, Mr. Wong. Mr. Leung. For the public housing in Chai Wan, there are 3 blocks that will be built on top of the swimming pool, and people will be traveling to the bus terminus via the escalators. And this is happening to many housing estates as well, and during rush hours, people will be queuing up for these elevators, not escalators. Now, how many elevators, how many lifts will be provided? How are you going to be easing the crowd? And there is a bridge linking up with the lift tower, and this is overlooking the swimming pool. How can you ensure the privacy of the swimmers? Or would you be considering providing an escalator instead of a lift? Which one is going to be more expensive? Right, on the question of lifts, I defer to Dr. Yip, Dr. Sherman Yip, to address this. As to the design of the footbridge, the CEDD will answer the question. Dr. Yip? Yes, there are 2 lifts there, and the CEDD is responsible for the provision of the lifts. Now, this is connected with Chai Wan Road and the platform there. It is 60 meters long, which is connected with another section of 95 meters long. And I defer to my colleague for further supplement. Thank you. Thanks very much. Right, let me supplement something. There are 2 lifts there, each accommodating 21 people. And the capacity would be enough to cope with the demand. As to the footbridge, the member has got a point there. They will be overlooking the swimming pool and what's happening there where necessary. We are happy to retrofit some screening there to block the sight line there. So when we build the footbridges, these would be some of the standard facilities.
I have a follow-up question. 2 lifts for 3 blocks, would it be sufficient? Of course, within the 3 blocks, there will be a number of lifts. So you are funneling a lot of people into a small number of lifts for access outside. We have made an estimation of the flow of people and as well as the capacity of the lifts system. Well, usually this will be the bottleneck for people living there, and usually the problems lie with the lifts there. Mr. Kwok Wai Keung, what the department has been in contact, in communication with us, so we know the design. First of all, we want to achieve savings as far as possible. When we look at this Chai Wan or Chai Wan site, there was a skateboard ground because the need to relocate the skateboard ground, and $10 million will be needed for that relocation. I already mentioned that skateboard grounds will generate noise, and the departments are saying that they would plant some trees to prevent noise. I think the future PRH residents will not be using the skateboard grounds a lot of the time, and usually the user will come from other areas. And of course, if they have a choice, if say we have the one near the North Point Promenade Walkway, they will not choose to go to this particular one if they have choice. And of course, when people use the skateboard ground, they generate huge noise. Some members are concerned about the width of the turnaround. Well, if we don't have a skateboard ground here, can we then provide some other alternative facilities for the residents there? You need to build a big platform for the public rental housing blocks. Well, this is common in the Eastern District when we want to have buildings on a slope. But I need to put down a marker here now at the present moment. If we are going to have a TPS or HOS estate, I hope you will not require in the land lease that they will be responsible for future maintenance of the relevant slope works because it's expensive. I'll ask Mr. Chen from CEDD to respond to the question on the skateboard ground. As for this future platform for A Kung Ngam Village and the future slope maintenance, I'll ask Mr. Chen to respond. Thank you, Mr. Kwok, for your question. actually, we are grateful to Mr. Kwok when when we had to consider the location of the reprovisioned skateboard ground, and also for his comments concerning the possible noise problem. We are going to use the topography, the terrain there. And actually, the skateboard board is located in a sort of a lower elevation, and we have also got the plants there to provide some shielding effect, so that it will not affect the resident of the Chai Wan estate as well as the new development here. Well, we have an existing skateboard ground near the Chai Wan Swimming Pool. We've talked to the LCSD, and we are given to understand that skateboarding is a popular sport. Since there is already one, we would like to reprovision this in situ, so as to meet the needs of local residents. With regard to the slope at the A Kung Ngam Village site, well, there's no decision made yet concerning whether this public housing project will be an HOS or a public rental housing project. We will pay attention to the comments made by Mr. Kwok concerning the future responsibility for slope maintenance. We'll talk to the lands department. And there are other subsidized housing projects with a slope nearby, and the CDD can do some slope stabilization works in advance, and so that in the future slope maintenance work will not be too costly. There's still two members who would like to ask questions, and another member would like to speak for the second round. I wonder if other members in the council building would like to ask questions as well. If there are only 3 members who would like to speak, we'll be able to deal with this item if the meeting time is extended to 11:45. Well, it very much depends on whether other members would like to join us in asking questions. And also that it would depend on whether the 2 members who haven't asked their questions would like to ask follow-up questions. I think the best I can do is to extend the meeting time to 11:45. All right? If there's no other comment on this, we would proceed as suggested. Mr. Ho Chow, I want to speak on the Yuen Long Kam Tin South project. At the panel discussion, I said that, we are talking about stage 2 or phase 2 of the Kam Tin South project. I don't think we should segregate phase 1 and phase 2 as if they are distinct projects. There are many social welfare and community welfare facilities located in stage 1. So we need to take an overall view about the 2 phases. For Kam Tin South phase 2 public housing developments, although the site formation is going to cost us just $40 million, not a lot of money in my view. There will be two public housing blocks. The site area is just 1.1 hectare. For first phase, there are 222 blocks, which is a much larger development. And phase 2, in comparison, is just a small development project. We're just talking about 2 additional blocks. Have you considered that this be incorporated into phase 1? And then you save some money in site formation and land reclamation in phase 1. You spend some $900 million for the public housing blocks. For phase 2, for 2 more blocks, just 2 more blocks here. For 1.1 hectares of land here in phase 2, you have spent more than $100 million for site formation. The first phase involves 13 hectares, and now we're talking about a site just 1/13 of the first phase. A small site for 2 more blocks. It seems that the cost is much higher because they need to incur some additional expenditure. I'm not against the project. You need to do what you need to do, and I just want to know the rationale in the planning. If you work out the figures, would you agree that it would be better to have the 2 additional blocks incorporated into the first phase, and you will save a lot of funds? Have they considered this option, or they have, but this is not feasible? Please tell us where the difficulties lie. Thank you for your questions, Mr. Chow. For Yuen Long, Kam Tin South Phase 2 site. Well, originally we want to proceed together with the first phase, but there were legal problems with the land resumption process, legal problems. We did not want to hinder the construction of the 8,000 units. That's why we want to deal with the second phase separately. But in the planning process, we look at this in a holistic manner. For example, the number of blocks, we were able to provide 9,000 units through the 2 phases, having considered all the constraints. If we can squeeze in the 700 units in the first phase, we may have to go for a lower figure totally. The site formation and infrastructure work for this phase 2 are straightforward. And that would also lower the overall site formation cost for the entire Kam Tin South public housing developments project. Well, perhaps you have some constraints in dealing with phase 1. For example, you cannot increase the number of units or the density, and that's why you need a second phase. It's a simple question. You have just briefly covered the reasons. So have you conducted some studies that you cannot really do it, or you cannot incorporate the units in phase 1, and you need to do the site formation and the land reclamation you're proposing now?
即係有關
That's correct, Chairman. We've been liaising with departments to release as much land as possible. So in terms of the development density, the use of space, we have maximized the potential of the land resources. So you have considered this. This is not really unprepared. Dr. Junis Ho, following on from Mr. Chow's question, is it a chicken or egg situation? Has the consultant really conducted all the assessment and come up with all the proposals before putting together the tender document? Now you go to a tender with this document. My question is, what is the input of the consultants? Do they play the role before the tender exercise or after the exercise? Mr. Lam, I defer to Mr. Chen from the CEDD. Well, the consultant is responsible for the infrastructure and site formation. The HD colleague has already said that the overall planning is the most cost-effective. And the consultant would have to ensure that the layout would be designed in a way that is the most cost-effective. So the consultant would be responsible for the site. I know that Dr. Ho is concerned about the consultancy fee. We will keep an eye on that. And this represents the ceiling. And if we can proceed faster, then the cost will be less. Dr. Ho, your consultancy fee and the resident staff, this is taking up 11%, and this is no small amount. And also the supplementary paper, CB 1221, para 3 and para 4, refers to the site formation. It is 134 million. For 8A3, it is $920 million. I'm not clear about the numbers. 134 million, 2.4 hectares. It should be $132 million. But in the paper, you are seeking $290 million. Now you have the returned tender back in September, and the paper is dated the 19th of February. So it is more than 290 mil. Now for 8A3, we should be spending $211 million. And now the sum sought is $253 million. And there is a difference of $42 million. How do you account for the differential there? There is a discrepancy. Thank you. Chai Wan and A Kung Ngam, the site formation course. I defer to CEDD, Mr. Chen. Yes, Mr. Chen, please. Thank you, Dr. Ho, for the question. For the two projects, the site formation cost is on the basis of the return tender price. we divide the cost by the site area and come up with the price tag. Dr. Ho? So it is on the basis of the tender price? Yes, the number in the paper reflects the tender price. The paper dated the 19th of February has reflected 8A3CL, 2.3 hectares time 9.2 is a matter of multiplication. Why is it that there is an excess of $43 million? Yes, the price indicator in the paper is the MOD price. In the returned tender document, we express that in terms of the price in September 2024. So we're adopting this for the sake of easy comparison. Dr. Ho, well, this is really ambiguous. You also have the contingency fee, and the tender price is not the same as what is indicated in the paper. You also said that you have to look at the inflation. I am really confused. I am discombobulated, really. One final point, if I may. Also having to do with the retaining wall, according to the supplementary paper, item 4 for the slope, $330,000 to $600,000 for the slope work. That you have the site formation and the retaining wall budget. Has the retaining wall be included in the site formation, or will there be any separate item for fee payment? In the supplementary paper, paragraph 4 has it been included in the site formation cost? Mr. Chen. Chairman. Now for site formation, this covers 2 areas of work. The first is excavation, soil excavation, and rock excavation. And we have to do the slope work and also the retaining wall, and all these costs would be embedded in it. Mr. Andrew Lam, 3 minutes for the second round, please. Chairman, thank you. 776CL, Yuen Long, Kam Tin South. At the panel meeting, we had a look at the design to see whether we can fully utilize the potential of the land. The chairman raised a very good question. I was following up. Now, the site coverage is low. And I remember there is the height restriction of the Shek Kong airport and the breeze corridor of 20 meters and so on. The height restriction, I appreciate that. That's rather rigid. But for the breeze corridor, 20 meters, why is it that it would affect the project so much? And I would like the administration to explain further whether there is any room for further upward adjustment. Mr. Chen. Chairman, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Lam, for the question. Let me supplement some information. Now, for the ventilation corridor, it has to be 25 meters wide. This spans across the 4A2 project, or 30% of the site. Now, we also have to contend with the 30% of landscaping, and the area available for the layout of the buildings would be rather limited. So in the course of design, together with 4A1 site, we did try to contemplate many ways to maximize the number of units that can be made available. And we're liaising with the planning department. When we look at the technical parameters we would have regard to this. Now for 4A1, now 4A2 is rather small. 4A1 site, when we design together with 4A2, we can accommodate 50 units more. But because of the site constraint, these 50 additional units can only be accommodated in 4A1. So, so for 4A1, we have seen an increase of 50 units. Right, this plan is very useful. I know that you are fine-tuning the design. You may not be able to give us the specifics, but this drawing gives me the idea that the breeze corridor is really commanding a lot of space. If you explain clearly enough in the panel, it would have obviated a lot of questions. Well, many a time, when officials address the questions, I hope that you will be giving us the reply relevant to the question. And you are really digressing to irrelevant issues. This is not the most useful, the best use of the time available here. And I hope that you will try to address the question in a relevant way. All right, if members don't have any further questions, I now put this to the vote. Will members who are in support of this paper, PWSC 2024, 25, 23, please raise their hands. Those against? I think members are in support of this paper. The paper is endorsed. As to whether we should further discuss this at the Finance Committee meeting under Procedure 41A, I'd like to put this motion to the vote. That this committee proposes that the Finance Committee further discuss paper PWSC bracket 2024-25-23. Now, if this motion is passed, it would mean that the Finance Committee will be discussing this item further. If this is voted down, it means that we do not propose that the Finance Committee further discuss this paper. With those in favor of this motion, please raise their hands. Those against? I think the majority of members voting are in opposition to this motion. The motion is voted down. We do not propose that the Finance Committee further discuss paper PWSC 2024-25 bracket 23. And it is expected that the papers will be submitted to the Finance Committee in March. Thank you very much. The meeting, which is supposed to last for 2 hours, has been extended to more than 3 hours. And we're done with all the 2 papers. Thank you very much for your cooperation, and my thanks to the government officials. Next meeting is scheduled for the 26th of March, 2025 at 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Thank you all very much. Meeting is now adjourned.